creatives, community. Oh, wow. Creatives, community, kind folks out there. Hello. Welcome to RPG with DBJ. We are doing a quite extensive and long deep dive into Game of Thrones characters and Marvel Cinematic Universe characters as we lead into Avengers Endgame and the last season of Game of Thrones. So each day we are taking a character and finding out what kind of tabletop role-playing game fuel we can derive from each character. And so today we are getting into Spider-Man, a classic, a favorite, a character that's been around for a very long time. So Dead Man Storyteller, who starts on in, says Spidey has the longest list of alternative universes in Marvel, both comics and MCU. I cannot disagree with you there. So, but before we get into, because there's a ton of mythology when it comes to Spider-Man, and there are some other characters who have really great comparisons to him. So, what are we really looking at when we come upon a number of these characters? And something that I haven't said before when it comes to especially comic book characters, but even any character that you see in mass media and you're stuck for an idea and you really want to take this character and go, man, I want to take that particular individual, whether it's in a book or comic book, movie, television show, whatever it may be, a podcast, I don't care. And you say, well, what can I steal from it? What can I take? Well, the thing is, we need to find the core essential value of that character. And Spider-Man's core essential value is pretty simple, summed up quite elegantly by the late Stan Lee. And essentially, the core essential value of Spider-Man is this. It's a relatively young individual who, despite having many pressures from living in a real and hectic world, is gifted with great powers, but of course learns that with great power comes great responsibility. That is the core essential value of Spider-Man. Doesn't matter what his powers are, where he got them from. All it is a relatively young individual with a lot of responsibility who is granted great powers and realizes through trial and tribulation that with great power comes great responsibility. And as a matter of fact, in a very old role-playing game, DC's Mayfair system, they actually had one of the motivations was responsibility of power. Right. Yeah. And Dead Man, of course, says, there's the absolute positively excellent quote that was given and, of course, written by the late Stan Lee was, with great power comes great responsibility. Uncle Ben. Now, of course, mind you, we've seen plenty of times where origins have been rewritten or reshuffled around. Every superhero character has had the, Rickard Johnson also Uncle Ben dies, right? Well, with great power comes great responsibility, right? We've seen that story played out in different methods. For example, in one of the original methods when it comes to saving Uncle Ben had nothing to do with a gentleman stealing money from the wrestling match that Spider-Man was trying to earn money at. And then in the Jerry Maguire, jeez. Anyway, Jerry Maguire, wow. Tobey Maguire, the Tobey Maguire version of Spider-Man, when Peter Parker ignores the thief, that thief then runs downstairs, carjacks a car, and Uncle Ben, waiting for him to pick him up. Of course, he lied to Uncle Ben, saying he was at the library across the street, gets carjacked, Ben gets shot, Uncle Ben gets shot, leaves him outside, i.e. the lesson of with great power comes great responsibility. And something that where Dead Man brings up that Spidey has the longest list of alternate universes in Marvel, not just alternate universes, but one of the things that really makes up what a non sequitur I put out there. Yeah, Rickard says, show me the money. Just took on a new meaning. Yeah. Yeah. Aunt May is like, Tell me again. Show me the money. That would be terrible. But you guys get what I'm saying, right? It really has nothing to do with Spider-Man's powers. It's about this young individual, you know, idealistic about the world, but then the world comes down on him with lots of responsibility, job responsibilities, social responsibilities, responsibility to family, trying to earn money and keep a job down, and being pulled in three directions. Hey, one friend has a party, another friend needs to be tutored. It's the classic. You can't be everywhere at once. And oh, what's this? Some elemental force is destroying the city, and someone out of the extensive rogues gallery, Spider-Man's rogues gallery, pours out into the city, and then now they're torn to, Spider-Man's got to ditch on a date or something like that to stop it. Yeah, Deadman Storyteller says Spider-Man 3 had that quote near verbatim. Yeah, absolutely. And that really summarizes that particular character, right? Sure, there are plenty of other superheroes. Superman comes to mind with the truth, justice, and American way quote, which they tend not to use as often. But with great power comes great responsibility. I mean, even to date, they've had Tony Stark mention that to him. Yes, modified quite a bit, but even he mentions that to Peter Parker, so that you can still get across that same motivation for this character. And although we have seen in the comic books Spider-Man brought into the Avengers, and Spider-Man put on teams, and Spider-Man graduates from school, and he gets a family and everything, really what it boils down to is that, and the thing that I believe that draws so many people to the Spider-Man character is his young exuberance in a complicated world, at least from his point of view, right? Spider-Man without money problems and Spider-Man without family problems, Spider-Man as a brilliant, rich scientist with his own lab or something doesn't quite work. Despite the fact that it makes perfect sense for him to be that way, there's something about certain characters that it doesn't fit. Batman stopping crime in Gotham and being done does not fit for that character. Something has to happen to return the characters back to the core essential value that made them who they are. And so that's why there's always a reset button for so many of these superhero characters, and Spider-Man just happens to be one of the most popular. So, okay, what can we steal from this character? We've been talking about like making them a PC, an NPC, an adversary, and those kind of things. So let's get into it. PC, of course. We got to talk about Spider-Man being a PC. Spider-Man, okay, let's really be honest here with ourselves, because I'm a huge Spider-Man fan. I grew up with him like so many of you guys. I came upon Spider-Man long before the clone, long before the Spider-Verse came about. I used to be a Miles Morales hater when he first came about. I despised Spider Universes. Okay, I have certainly recovered from that hate. I've certainly recovered from that because I'm a creative fan at heart, so it's just one of those like, you're taking what I love so much, you're messing it up, and then when you read it, you're just like, yeah, I'm kind of stupid. But that being said, what can we do as a player character for Spider-Man? And really, let's be honest, Spider-Man, he's pretty damn powerful. He's really pretty powerful. He's one of the most powerful mortal characters in the Marvel universe, and I'll go into why. And I don't think this is a bad thing. Rickard says, if you think about it, Spider-Man follows some of the fantasy cliches. A farm kid finds out that they have special powers and has to save the world. Absolutely. And so what that they they took that same cliche and wrapped it into a dead man storyteller says, "Hey, Rickard, that's Superman." Um, kind of, yeah. I think that they just wrapped it into a different package, right? Even the even the whole like Aunt May, like, you know, sometimes is often said like spiders just make me icky, the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man where he's working at the pizza place and swinging through New York City and such. It's just Rickard says they don't bother with changing anything with Superman. Just print it as is. Yeah, yeah, that's true. So one of the things I think we can really say to ourselves with Spider-Man is Spider-Man is very much a singular entity. He's really capable in so many ways to survive on his own. And I don't necessarily mean that it's a perfect survival. I am not claiming that Spider-Man is perfect, but if you take the sum of the character, right? He's an excellent fighter, and I'm doing this. I'm actually stealing this a little bit from the original Marvel superheroes face rip system. Face rip stands for fighting agility, strength, endurance, reason, intuition, and psyche. And the first four face, the FASE, where it was like your physical durability, superhero wise, and then the last three, the RIP, where you're like your mental abilities, like it was like a combination of your mental abilities, and that's how all the superheroes were made in that system. And when you went down the line, like, yeah, Spider-Man could fight really well, maybe unorthodox, but Spider-Man had I think it was like incredible fighting or something. Of course, he's one of the fastest superheroes, most dexterous superheroes in the cinematic universe. So he had like amazing. Oh, they used words. They had numbers, but they used words as descriptors, and each word went up. So it's like good, excellent, remarkable, incredible, amazing, monstrous, unearthly, whatever. You don't need whatever. Anyway, you could find the game online everywhere. So he had like an amazing agility. He's got incredible strength and endurance. He could lift like 10 tons, I believe, and lift 10 tons as an insect could. Your pocket GM says, "Good thing he got bit by a spider, not a mosquito, a cockroach." Spider-Man's rogues gallery has plenty of those individuals. Bit by a fly, bit by a mantis, bit by a scorpion, or not just bit, but he's got a lot of elementals in his rogues gallery. And I don't necessarily mean earth, air, fire, water, which they do exist, but I mean like elementals, like animals, scorpions and flies and rhinoceroses, those kind of elemental adversaries, because we're gonna get into that as well. So yeah, he's very intelligent. He's super perceptive with the danger sense, or whichever iteration they describe how his danger sense works, which in many ways has kind of been explained, but not really explained, but doesn't really matter. And even his psyche, when it comes to his mental toughness and fitness, he's gotten his ass kicked a ton of times. And there was even a storyline called where a wizard known as Gath took over the Marvel universe, and specifically New York, killed a bunch of superheroes. And Spider-Man did not fall to the wizard's power and influence, and was actually strung up and crucified and tortured quite often on a daily basis because his toughness wouldn't break. And in that Gath storyline, it was one of those things where you're reading the comic books and it was just a regular thing, and then the very next episode series, you just turn. It's just all half the heroes are dead, the rest of them are enslaved. Spider-Man's crucified, and then as you're reading it, you have to realize that this wizard did something where he went back in time. Mythos says, "Sorry, okay, you're fine, man. Yeah, what's going on, Meath?" So Spider-Man to me is is a very is a character that I think is a PC that can take care of himself. Maybe stumbles and falls. Oh, it's an internet joke. You're fine, man. But Spider-Man like can really take care of himself, like a very much like a bard or a ranger type character, or a character type that has gathered himself quite a number of skills. Maybe not a master of any particular thing, but a jack of all trades type of character who has lots of responsibility to maybe a faction he belongs to and family, some friends, again, for good or bad. Maybe there's a village or a section of town that he really feels strongly about, maybe a place from home and likes to come back and visit them. Maybe there are individuals, someone's in a hospital that he has to visit. This is a character who may not want to have those responsibilities, but as a character embraces those those responsibilities. Yeah, Mythos. Yeah, rest in peace, Spider-Man. He got the Thanos snap, of course. And we know that, well, as the nerd theory goes, the NERD theory goes, no one ever really dies in the comic books. They all come back. It's just a giant reset button, and yeah, it'll be back. He's got a movie coming out like 2 months later after Endgame, so yeah, no superhero stays dead. Even if they don't make a reason for them to come back, they just make a new series and they bring them back. Same thing happened to Batman. They had, the Joel Schumacher crazy Batman that killed the series, and then they hired another director, and quite a few years later they were like, hey, let's make him more realistic, and they didn't explain why he was back. He's just back. Yeah. Mythos says, and we can use that in campaigns, but don't abuse it too much. Well, you know what? Let's be honest. No one's, the whole point of the concept of playing Dungeons and Dragons and stuffing your dead buddy into a bag of holding so you can take him to like the resurrection store has become a trope, because of course no one ever really dies, even in role-playing games, right? There's always we're going to save his soul and go into hell and bring him back. We're going to go to I don't know, the local Costco and find a resurrection person to bring their body back. Or my cleric just happens to have in his back pocket some spell or form or something to bring somebody back. So it's really the same thing. It's exactly the same thing. And believe you me, it's abused, really. It kind of, to me, I think it kind of breaks the immersion. But Spider-Man as a player character also is very, very intelligent, and this behooves us as game masters to have a player who wants to play a Spider-Man type character who's very, very uses the environment, learns a lot of clues about how to beat the bad guy. Yeah. Deadman says, or Eclipse Phase has cortical stacks. Exactly. You can always come back from that. There are plenty of games where death really isn't a problem as well, such as Toon or Teenagers from Outer Space, or not Kids on Bikes, Tales from the Loop, and the upcoming Tales from the Flood. You play kids who can't die. That's in the rules. You can't die. You get super complicated. You get a lot of complications that pull you out of the game. Or like Teenagers from Outer Space, you get bonked on the head enough, like in a cartoon where you get the swirlies around your head and the birds and the stars, that pulls you out temporarily. But there's a lot of games where death isn't part of the role-playing experience, but that part of the experience isn't the point of playing those role-playing games. Your Pocket GM says comic books are serialized, so you can't actually kill the main character or the story ends unless it's the Phantom. Yeah. They are serialized. That's why they hit the reset button all the time. There's a great conflict. Maybe a character retires for a short time. They are quote unquote sidelined when a new person takes over their identity for a short time, or they have one of those combined world things where there's too many universes. They're going to combine together or be destroyed, which is just basically their way of saying like, yeah, we had too many storylines. We got to kill them off. And then they bring it back. Mutha says, although as a DM, it is a tool if you have a plot character that is pivotal, but you can bring them back with consequences, i.e., they come back slightly crazy. Yeah. It did, man. Yeah. So, uh, the idea of one of the greatest things about the Spider-Man character is the fact that the character is always pulled in many directions. There's a ton of consequences, as you guys bring Mythos brought up, that there's a lot of consequences to his actions. If he leaves to stop the evil and he ditches a date, well, his relationship with his, soon to be girlfriend is off. If he ditches a friend who really needs to have great grades to get into college because he's got to, help Aunt May with something in the backyard. Again, he ruins his possible friendship or whatever. And 99.9% of the time, there's no right answer. It's not a matter of like, well, Peter Parker should have done this thing, which we all know he's got to beat up the bad guy, right? But it's the idea that as a kid, it's like the lesson being taught to us that sometimes you just need to do the right thing. It's the responsibility of power. Do the right thing with your powers and then let everything else fall into place, right? It's that no one knows who you are. Of course, he's got the secret identity. His face is, hidden away. So he can't tell anybody. He can't tell the bully, the high school bully who he is. He's not even really supposed to, hey, Scott Poe, what's going on? Not even really supposed to beat up the high school bully. They even try to teach that lesson where he gets his Spider-Man powers and all, Flash Thompson, the school bully, wants to punch him in the face or something, and he quickly dodges out the way and embarrasses him. And other people look at him like, wow, Parker, like you didn't really have to embarrass him like that, which is weird, but that's the case, right? It's that's also responsibility of power as well. Mythos says, I do love how in the game Peter now has Miles. If you say two Spider-Mans are overpowered, you clearly aren't a Spider-Man fan. Oh yeah. I mean, it's just it's not a specificity of like, Spider-Man's overpowered or just too many universes. It's just that, but Spider-Man gets ganked by his enemies. Spider-Man gets his ass beat quite a bit by his enemies, which is why there's plenty of fan art and images from the comic books and the graphic novels where he's got the half-ripped mask, he's got the claw marks across his chest, he's got the burn marks on his shoulder, he's always sneaking into his bedroom, half tired and beat up and bruised. People are wondering what's wrong with him because he doesn't get enough sleep. And surrounding a character like that, I think, is the greatest thing. And allowing Spider-Man or Peter Parker to use his ingenuity to solve situations. For example, when he fought the Juggernaut, he tricked the Juggernaut into walking into like 30 feet of curing concrete. So Juggernaut goes down, sinks down into the bottom of the foundation of an office building down in the 33 of concrete. The Juggernaut literally had to wait till the concrete cured so that it was hardened because he couldn't swim his way out. He couldn't get his way out. He didn't have to breathe. He just sat down there for a while. But yeah, Spider-Man fought the Juggernaut. Of course, he couldn't hurt the Juggernaut, but he solved the situation. It's the combining of Hydro Man and Sandman together as one and turning them into a big sludge monster. It's the finding the MacGuffin to stop the evil so that it doesn't happen again. Spider-Man does that plenty of times. Yeah, Spider-Man says, my point is having two is not enough. Yeah, always have to have more Spider-Man. I hear you. It's fun when done in small doses. Just having more is not always better. Yeah, Mythos says, Juggernaut, I'm going to rip you in half, Deadpool. That is such a Juggernaut thing to say. Yeah. Although quite hilarious that Juggernaut's in the background with a electric cable stuck up his rear end, and they just walk away, leaving him there thrashing in the water. But whatever. What a hilarious looking scene. Anyway, yeah, Spider-Man has a rogues gallery, and I'm going to say that, with his rogues gallery, that's another thing that I think is a great thread to pull on. Yeah, Spider-Man says Into the Spider-Verse movies proves it quite well. That having more in the context of that story, yeah, it's not a bad thing. And of course, as was mentioned in that movie, we get the modifications of Spider-Man's origin, but they all basically lead back to the exact same thing. That with great power comes great responsibility, right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, in this iteration, yeah, Ryan's Deadpool, Tom Holland's Spider-Man. Yeah, I mean, what great casting, I guess. Not that maybe you guys are young. You'll someone at some point will have to take over the mantle, but for right now, many those guys are perfect in their roles, and the direction that they're given, the people that write for them and stuff like that are letting them really explore that. So yeah, great casting. Great guys. Yeah, well, hey, before anything else existed, how do you know Toby was black? That's only because now you have something to compare it to. At the time, it was just like, oh, I'm just so happy to have a Spider-Man movie. So Spider-Man having a rogues gallery is like having a host of NPCs that you can pull on to throw into the PC's way over and over again. That's not a very common thing outside of superhero role-playing games, but when it comes to role-playing games that are not superheroes, we often are, it's often, death and destruction, right? Either my character's going to die or the enemy's going to die. You get out of the way. Give me back my experience points. I got to kill him. Now in superheroes, of course, it's the knockout show, right? It's we're going to take out Scorpion or something, and he's going to get captured and be put on the raft or whatever prison that they have for superheroes, and of course they'll come back at some point. But yeah, it's just Mythos says love them, but he sucked as Parker. He didn't grow. Well, that's not his fault. That's the direction and writing. Deadman says Spider-Man was the first comic book live action TV show. Yeah, there was a old live action TV show that was great for its time because you had nothing to compare it to. But when you look back at it, it's just like, oh, that was terrible. Also, Spider-Man came on the Electric Company kids show, so let's not forget that as live action as well. So creating a rogues gallery, characters that come back, maybe not necessarily in the same way that we think of superheroes, but getting into like having a certain faction return in this character's life, certain political enemies, people in the character's life, whether they're friends or family or rivals or something also. It's just one of those things where it's a great way to reinforce that the character lives in a world, and bringing back people over and over again, whether it's Dungeons and Dragons with like the barmaid or the person that works in the blacksmith's location or something like that. Having a laundry list of characters you can always go back to and surround that PC, I think is a great thing to pull on as well. As far as like an NPC, Spider-Man also as an NPC makes a great foil, especially when it comes to, like, for example, the recent iteration. For example, if you are a more knowledgeable superheroes, like for example, Tony Stark and Iron Man, right? He goes to Spider-Man because he needs help. It's maybe a player character wants to train or mentor another character, and the Spider-Man character is an NPC almost like a squire or an up and comer, and the other player characters are, you know, the Spider-Man NPC is capable enough to get themselves in trouble, but not capable enough to get themselves out of trouble. So maybe the players are ones who are those that are like, okay, wait a minute, I know you're a great swordsman, or I know you have psychic abilities, or something like that. Yeah, Bethos, you guys are crazy. I refuse to get squirreled. So it could be that the player characters are out to set themselves up as exemplars, as, hey, don't do as I do as I say, kind of thing. And could be a reflection of what the players are doing. So for example, let's say you have a player who's like carrying around guns and wants to assassinate people, and then you have this Peter Parker. Yeah, Vin says giant squirrel, of course. Yeah, because I look it in the chat. Don't worry about that. So the Peter Parker character might be like, hey, oh, so you want me to carry a gun and start killing people? And the player's like, listen, I'm the guy who kills people and shoots them in the back of the head. Maybe you need to do something else. So it could be, this character could be a reflection of a kind of a sarcastic reflection of what the players are doing. And this, yeah, Squirrel Girl, yeah. And the players may have to rethink their own agendas and their own consequences. Like, ooh, maybe is this what people think of us? You know what I mean? Yeah, Mithu says, in Rifts, anything is possible. Yeah, that's a ton of squirrels, man. That's a ton of them. Oh man, don't touch his nuts. Anyway, so the Peter Parker also as an NPC is someone who is a great, like I don't want to say quest giver. Let's that maybe that term's overused, but I don't have a greater one. Here's a person who maybe gets themselves into trouble, or trouble seems to find them, and then the PCs have to correct it all the time. So, you know, it kind of is the person, could be considered the person who's like, hey, I found this book. I think the front of it says Necronomicon, and I started reading it, but I think something happened. And, you know, an 80-foot portal opens up and Cthulhu starts walking through, right? Maybe this, as an NPC, this Spider-Man-like character is capable enough to keep themselves alive, but not capable enough to stop causing the trouble that they're doing. So maybe they are, you know, they're stealing things, pushing things down, causing rumors to spread, releasing, you know, dark enemies and uncontrolled beasts and elemental powers upon the world, and the PCs have to come in and stop it. Now, of course, again, you don't want to do that too often, because eventually someone's going to want to kill this Peter Parker character who's like, I didn't know it was a Tarrasque. It was a small egg when I first saw it. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want to do that too often. Yeah, right. Rickard says NPC could easily be an up and coming character that the PCs can mentor. Of course, right? The whole mentoring the new adventurer, the new hero, the green character who's inserted into the bunch of veteran warriors, you know, and of course all the veteran warriors are like, oh, rolling their eyes, like, do we need this greenie with us? Do we need this rookie? And of course everyone starts to eventually soften up and embrace this individual, who of course can be another player character that's inserted in. Although they might be young and inexperienced, they have extremely great potential, i.e. Spider-Man and Peter Parker makes that, right? Best quest giver Myth was talking about Preston Gravy, another settlement needs your help. I'll mark it on your map. General best quest giver. Yeah, of course. Quest givers are a staple of role playing. Again, you want to wipe away the serial numbers and try not to make it so heavy-handed if you can. But again, sticking it in your back pocket, you know, it's a quest giver doesn't necessarily need to be capable or an old man or something. The quest giver could be somebody young who's like, hey, I found this thing. I don't know what it is. I think it caused some problems. Can you help me fix it? And then the PCs are like rolling their eyes, like, oh, we're going to have to fix this thing. And then the character stumbles along with the player characters. Okay, well, what happened? Well, I got bit by this bug, but I'm not really sure, which again, maybe uncovering the NPC's background might also be a part of a quest. I once ran a game for Wraith the Oblivion, one of the White Wolf games, where the game starts out where all the player, you play a ghost, you play a Wraith, and the players are all standing around a crime scene, and a young lady is there who just woke up as a ghost, and she's just like, what the hell happened? And the whole adventure was uncovering why she was killed, who did it, and everything. And so there could be the idea that the player, that this person hasn't even become Spider-Man yet, and the players are mentoring, finding out what happened in their background, what abilities they have, kind of training them, guiding them. And so that could be they could be a 0-level character and they become bardic, if you will, or whatever. Hey, I'm the wizard, I'm going to teach you some spells. Oh, okay. Well, I'm the rogue, I'm going to teach you how to sneak around. Oh yeah, sure. Hey, I'm the fighter, sing me a song. Like, I didn't really think about it. Yeah, I've got some songs I remember. That's a possibility as well. Deadman says, or possibly the MNU, Marvel Netflix universe. Yeah, well, technically there is one, although it's coming to an end, but that doesn't necessarily mean the quality is bad, although it was hit or miss. Rickard says you could have him be a local folk hero solving local stuff, like playing on the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, right? And that naturally becomes part of the adventure when the PCs come to town. Absolutely. Yeah. Yes. And Mythos Spider-Man had the best villains. His interaction with Kingpin was the best. And that's another thing, right? Where both combining what Rickard and Mythos are saying, where this character could be like a local folk hero who hasn't really traveled far beyond their station, their location, their environment. And then, as we know, a ton of characters in most characters' rogues galleries, they have some kind of fundamental link, whether it's a link because of the town they live in. Maybe they're related by blood, they're a relative, they're linked by the same accident that gave them their abilities, they are linked. And then of course you spread that out. Maybe they're linked by devotion to the same deity, they're linked by the same psychic powers, and their dreams are linked together. Any number of things. A large number of Spider-Man's rogues gallery are linked to him in some kind of personal manner, whether Spider-Man helps them solve a problem. Oh, you're trying to steal money to help your kid. Well, how about I try to help you raise money to help your sick child? And the bad guy's like, what? You're going to help me out? That kind of thing, where maybe this folk hero isn't so much about, I want to beat people's asses, but he's more about solving the problem in the most economically efficient way. So, hey, we don't have to defeat the goblinoid horde. Maybe they're just hungry and we can just give them some of our food, or we can teach them how to farm for themselves. And locally that might be cool, but maybe the PCs come involved and they're like, wait a minute, who's feeding the goblinoid hordes? And then the PCs are like, listen, kid, you can't really do this with them. And he's like, well, why not? And there might be that might be the inciting event that causes the PCs to go, well, actually, he kind of makes a lot of sense. Maybe he's not the smartest thing to do with the king around the corner, but maybe we can figure out the best medium of fixing this situation or something. And so, yeah, Rickard says he can show the PCs around and knows what's what, but the reason that the PCs are there is something new. But Spider-Man can guide them around and aid them. Absolutely. Absolutely, positively. And of course, he doesn't have to dominate the scene. Yes, he knows. Taking in a modern context, sure, Spider-Man knows his neighborhood. Whether it's Queens or the Bronx or something in New York City. Of course, this could be any village or town, or a character that lives in a post-apocalyptic world where, yeah, sure, I know this island nation that's been held away because we want to keep away from the zombie hordes. But taken out of that context, you might be fumbling around quite a bit. Excuse me. Yeah, Mythos says having a villain who has quirks might be great. Having at least one comedic villain in your pocket is a good idea. Yeah, um, when you have a rogues gallery of characters, you got to throw some of them in there that are quite comedic. Even the Spider-Man banter, I think that's something that's not often utilized and undersold, but that's actually quite a great thing to add in. Deadman says Batroc the Leaper was the ultimate comedic villain. Yeah, we often sometimes when we're creating our settings and we want to we want to have a deep and dark and serious tone in our world, but something has to be said for breaking the tension. And Spider-Man slash Deadpool, because we if you follow Rob Liefeld, he specifically created Deadpool because he could not, they didn't want to give him Spider-Man, so he wanted to make his own version. And the Merc with the mouth, Spider-Man with his cracking his jokes, a ton of the bad guys that used to have really bad one-liners and such, embracing the talking during the fight is quite undersold in role-playing games. The social interaction while rolling the dice and rolling the initiative and rolling the hit and rolling the saving throws and all that other kind of crap. We need to embrace that. And the Spider-Man Peter Parker character is a great way to say, why do we get top-headed and just look down at our characters and never talk about things? A lot of knowledge actually gets spread to the players when the villains talk to the heroes. When the villain, yeah, when the villain, yeah, Mythos says that the players will probably spare them just for the laughs. Yeah, so some of the villains are quite hilarious. Stiltman, really? Stiltman? I mean, is that really a villain? Hell, the Flash had a bunch of villains that were like that as well, right? Where Flash didn't even beat up the villains. He's like, listen, I know you're about to commit a crime. Like, yeah, I am. So you're going to go back to prison, right? Yeah, I guess I am. You know what I mean? Rickard says Green Goblin, etc. equals, we had a bit of a gargoyle problem a while back. Uh, you guys are silly. So, yes, I mean, embracing the banter while we are doing our combat and our but between combat, meaning like maybe someone's looking up a spell effect or someone's trying to figure out what their character is going to do, or you're responding, you're giving the back and forth when you're responding to what your character did to the villain, what the villain did to you, what's happening in the environment. Maybe there's innocence and everything. The bad guy that screams at someone, like, there's no way for Spider-Man to find out that the Sandman was trying to get money for his sick child unless the Sandman actually said so to Spider-Man. The bad guy who is like, you can't stop me, Spider-Man. I'm trying to save the world with my energy creating device, would not know that unless the bad guy says, hey, I'm trying to save the world with my energy creating device, right? Or no, don't crack that. It's got a dangerous virus in the vial. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. Rickard says Doc Ock equals a wizard possessed by a spell gone wrong. Absolutely. The wizard who is attempting to do good, and then something goes wrong and they're possessed, and it's like, I want to fight. I want to beat up the bad guy, but I shouldn't kill them. It's the lycanthropy curse. You could do this with any creature in a role-playing game, right? The person who becomes a cyborg and they go crazy, the demon that possesses the innocent individual, anything. You can reskin any monster in the world in your game and go, oh, maybe they were cursed, maybe they uncovered something that was wrong, maybe they were infected by something, or they wore an ancient artifact that turned them into this monster. And so the heroes are like, listen, we need to stop this person. And of course, you've got a player that's like, why don't we just kill him? Well, we can't kill him. That's the king's daughter. And the king's daughter's been killing all these people? Yep. And we got to figure out a way to to get the curse off of her, or get the medallion from around her neck, or to get her to stand inside of the pentagram, or to spill this chemical, or get her to drink this antidote, or whatever the case may be, right? I.e. solving problems without just killing things. Um, yeah. Yeah, the Mythos says the new Spider-Man brings me to tears with that ending. Yeah, I don't want to go, Mr. Stark. Right, exactly. So Spider-Man, now we're going to get into something that many of us don't want to think about, but let's think about it anyway. Spider-Man Peter Parker as an adversary, as the bad guy. Now, of course, the easiest thing that we can go to is Spider-Man may not really be truly evil, but could just be misguided or lied to or manipulated, right? Um, yeah, Vince says, "Oh, I can only jump in once in a while." Sadly, nah, you're always welcome here, Vince, man. Um, yeah. Mythos says, Peter, you knew Doc Ock. I warned you Peter to back off. Yeah, the Spider Monster. Yeah, Vince talks about the Spider Monster. Talking about like the how many different accidental creations has Spider-Man come up against, and the Peter Parker character come up against. And so there could be the six-armed spider monster, right? That iteration has been done a number of times, and the idea that maybe the Spider-Man character as an enemy could have been part of, how do I explain this? An experiment, a curse, something has been unleashed into the world, and maybe this character isn't evil in the sense of, haha, I'm going to release all of my experiments, but could be actively preventing people from killing all of these other beasties that are going around causing so much damage and death and destruction. But this Spider-Man character is trying to save them, but can't stop them on his own. And so the player characters now are like, wait a minute, why are all these people being killed? And because, medieval games, there's always a village being attacked by something, right? And maybe this person is, the princess that is bitten by a werewolf, becomes a lycanthrope, is killing people. Maybe he's like, princess, I'll save you. I know you didn't want to do this. And so inadvertently and through inexperience, maybe he's allowing these deaths to occur because he's got a crush on the princess, or whatever created him has also been infecting other people, or the same experiment. Let's say everyone was on the same school bus, or everyone was in the same wagon, or the meteor that fell, or comet or something that fell from the sky. They were all camped out in the same location. And so this entity or this energy or this divinity or something has spread to so many people. And so maybe the Spider-Man character isn't an enemy in the classic sense of, I want to spread evil, but more or less, I'm drawn to them and I owe them my loyalty. And so inadvertently is like defending these killers and defending these things. Vince says, maybe he's just has an aversion to killing, but in a war that might be dangerous. Yes, I could see that. The person who refuses to, it's the idea of everyone's like, you need to put them down and kill them. And it's like, no, that's not right. And that might be causing more problems than it's worth, but the person's still sticking to their principles. Vince says, or his principles are a lot more neutral, responsibility for all instead of for the individual. Yeah, Dead man's pointing up. Yeah, squirreling, quite a bit of squirreling up. Yeah, Rickard says PC kills a bunch of mutated monsters who's been attacking villages in an area. The spider monster has some vague mind still and sees the PC killing his friends. Yes, that's a thing, right? And that, I mean, how often is that a trope? Right? The heroes come in, oh, dangerous monster, let's kill it. Oh, another dangerous monster, let's kill it. Oh, another dangerous monster. And hold on. Look at its eyes. Is it trying to plead with us? Maybe it scrawls something on a cave, or is holding on to a photograph, or it's the Frankenstein monster where everyone thinks it's evil, but it protects the young girl. And then the PCs are like, wait a minute, maybe there's something else going on. And it could be the PCs now realize that maybe these monsters, the monsters like the troll and the minotaur and the lycanthropes and the manticores and the nagas and whatever the case may be, you throw in there the giants, the oozes that are going around killing people. Maybe the PCs are like, wait a minute, these are innocent people. They don't want to do these things. So now we have to cure it. And maybe someone in authority is looking at the player characters like, listen, we hired you to kill the evil, not to cure them. They need to die. And so that could be the tug and pull as well, where the Spider-Man monster is going like, please, I don't want to be this way. Please help me. And yeah, that again, especially for low level combat, the idea of solving a problem without necessarily killing your experience points is a great way to do a twist on Spider-Man as well. Vince says maybe a misunderstood monster from another world that means good, but the PCs cannot or won't communicate. That's another great trope. The language barrier, or the monster from another world comes here not realizing that it's causing harm. It's the I don't want to go so far as the alien monster with the chest burster, but maybe it's stealing food and livestock. Maybe it's gathering together certain. It's poisoning the water system because this monster comes from a world where the water system is pure methane. You know what I mean, or whatever the case may be, right? Or it wants to, bring about a poison atmosphere or something, and the creature doesn't realize that. What it doesn't realize that what it's doing is releasing something maybe into the atmosphere or harming people, or maybe it's recruiting innocent people to help it. And to us, it looks like they're monstrous, but the people that are being recruited, who of course we can't communicate, are like, oh, I understand what he's trying to do. He can see in the future, and we need to help him. Let's see. Mutho says you can have one player secretly the main villain, and at the end of the campaign surprise you, though I was on your side. That's very difficult to handle secrets within the player character's party. That's like a whole nother thing. When we get back to doing the Monster Mondays, Tips and Tricks Tuesday, we'll go into that part. Let's see. He goes on to say, as a DM, no negative to acting out of affinity, because a villain can play a nice guy to get what he wants. Villains do that all the time. Villains are liars, and playing the nice guy card is also a great way to do the where the PCs are like 90% of these people are good, but maybe one of them is like evil, and so saving everyone might be a great thing until they realize, like, oh, one of them is a turncoat. Damn it. Oh, I can't believe we saved them. You know what I mean? And then, of course, i.e., we get to run a whole bunch of news stories with that, right? One of the spider monsters gets away, and we're like, oh, shit, we need to go after him, right? Vince says, reminds me a bit of that time I got reincarnated as a slime. I hope that's a joke. That's really weird. Vince says, where he became a slime monster and everyone thought of him as an enemy just because of his appearance. Yep. That's always a trope too. Looks evil, doesn't look like us, must be bad guy. Yeah. And Deadman says, it appears we're into the 10 minutes. Okay, people, let's start reaching out of our wazoo and start pulling out our best ideas. Rickard says, you could make the other monsters be straight up bestial, so about as evil as a dire wolf. Then they get the Spider-Man beast tracking them down to take revenge. So it's really the difference between, are they evil, air quotes, or are they just acting on their own nature? Is the owlbear really evil, or is it just like a shark, right? They're not evil, they're just acting on their own bestial intentions. And so maybe it's just a matter of, are the people transforming into owlbears, are they taking revenge on individuals? Are they just hungry? Are the beasties being moved out of their normal habitat because there's no food or shelter for them, that kind of thing, versus the being manipulated by some other evil creature? And maybe, like you said, the Spider-Man beast is tracking them down to take revenge on them. And again, you could have player characters who are like, well, yeah, they're hurting people, but maybe they just need to be saved, not necessarily killed. Vince says the manga light novel, I Am a Spider, So What? I didn't know that was a name. Had a protagonist being transformed into a spider monster and levels up slowly. When she meets humans, she cannot talk to them, but has to defend herself. And she kills a bunch of humans, realizing that they give a huge amount of XP and attack her without provocation. Oh, and Vince says that time I got reincarnated as a slime is actually an anime manga. I did not know that. That's nasty. That's weird, but okay. I mean, I'm not saying that that's a lie. I'm just like, really? I didn't know that. Edmutha says, yeah, as I said in the '90s Spider-Man cartoon, the last villain was Peter Parker Carnage from another universe. Uh, yeah, Peter Parker Carnage from another universe. Yeah. Heck, I was in a Spider-Man long before he got the black suit. Before I still have the first. I think it was 250, where Venom shows up, whatnot. Rickard says, going the other way around, evil wizard sends out cursed spiders to turn people. When bit, they become more powerful, but can be used by the wizard. So the PCs have to stop these spider zombies. And of course, there's a twist on. Yes, we have zombies as the classic like wizard, lich, necromancer thing. But who's to say there isn't an adversary that has any number of possible allies, like you're saying, like mutated spiders or dire wolves or trolls or something like that. Zevron, I tried to hop on. Nausea ain't fun. I feel bad for being so late. You're just in time to come up with your best ideas, Zev. So act like you were here 57 minutes ago and then just drop all your great ideas. That's the rule. That's sorry, dude. Rickard says spider goblins might be a better label. Okay. I like the idea of reskinning things, and like you mentioned with the other way around, like an evil wizard sends out a curse and starts like recruiting individuals. Maybe the individuals are like, they could be downtrodden as well. So there's maybe more of a gray area in it. So the people asking for or being recruited they think they're doing it for a good reason, but of course they're being manipulated. Oh, you said golem, not goblin. Okay, okay, let me go back up. Sorry. Mythos says, rest in peace, Spider-Man, but I'm sorry. Yeah, Thanos did nothing wrong. Thanos snapped. That's so Thanos isn't a good guy. Come on, man. Vin says the spider suit from the movies with the spider legs on the back might be an awesome magic armor power suit. I like that a lot. I really do. And what a great like personal magic item for a character. Like, hey, I know my character has this thing, and maybe the game master's like, don't worry about it. We're going to go on another adventure. And he's like, cool, I got a backpack spider legs, right? Zevron says, have we talked about how Peter Parker is responsible for all his villains, either directly or indirectly? We did kind of bring that up, but yeah, I mean, in many ways, he's kind of like fumbling, bumbling fool really isn't correct, but he is quite responsible for a number of his rogues gallery, right? Whether it's trying to get a cure for his own abilities, whether he's helping a scientist out, he happens to knock over some chemical. He says something inadvertently to a scientist who takes his offhand remark, and that person takes it seriously, you know. Yeah, Mythos says, yeah, Zev, except for Scorpion. That was all J. Jonah Jameson. Yeah, that's true, too. We didn't even bring up the J. Jonah Jameson thing. Deadman says the Ultimate Spider-Man has similar concept with the symbiotes taking over people. Yeah, we didn't even talk about the rather recent, but the whole thing about Spider-Man and a symbiote, the Venom creature that's attached to him, and how linked they are. What a great way to have a rival or an enemy attached inexorably to the hero, having this weird abusive relationship in many ways. So yeah, we've hit the hour mark, babe. You too, baby. Love you. Zev says maybe they are a being of chaos, a tiefling with demon heritage, a malicious being hell-bent on cleaning up crime in a city, causing people to seek vengeance. You could go that way. We've been playing it a little bit lighter, just because Peter Parker is a little bit younger, so we've been playing a little bit lighter, but you can actually go down that deeper hole. Rickard says less of a Spider-Man quote, Spider-Man is an enemy, but still good. We're just having a misunderstanding, and having a Spider-Man is evil and the heroes are the good guys. Yeah. Um, and y- y- not that you can't play them both ways, but if you really want to put a big conundrum in the player's way, having like the misunderstood character versus the I'm just evil kind of thing could be a great thing as well. And Zevran says, "Oh God, the symbiotes can be a whole other separate video." Shit, yeah. Because Spider-Man was a sacrifice. He was blood for the blood god, his skull for the skull throne. Just kidding. Well, it could have been. He said, "Just don't talk about toxin. God, is the worst." Yeah, yeah. Sevron brings, I mean, Light Yagami was young too, and he still had a good god complex when he tried to become a hero. I'm not familiar with Light Yagami. Uh, yeah, Rickard says, I think we have done a lot of misunderstanding ideas in previous talks. I do agree with you, Rickard, with the misunderstanding idea. Oh, Death Note. I like that one. Yeah, the misunderstanding thing. Even if I think sometimes the misunderstanding might just be, instead maybe it's just a matter of circumstance. So for example, someone might be doing quite a number of evil things for the purpose of saving maybe a smaller community versus a larger community. So it might not just be misunderstanding, it could just be them acting in the self-interest of protecting their own people, and they and they feel no guilt about it, right? Like, hey, our village has got 1,000 people, the king doesn't care about our people, so I don't care what the king thinks, or he could send his troops here or whatever, but we're going to defend ourselves. And the PCs might be like, no, there's a bigger picture, and this person's like, I could care less what your bigger picture is. So they could be quite an antagonist who doesn't feel guilty about doing the harmful things they're doing, as opposed to so-called misunderstanding and convincing them to change their ways, right? In terms of clarifying, I think maybe a difference that Rickard and I are not having, but kind of like clarifying that, because I know you can only type in so many things in the chat. Rick, yeah, of course Thanos has to die for what he did to Gamora. Rickard says, so I'm trying to think of a version of straight up evil ideas to balance it out. Yeah, that's as close as I got, although you could do the idea of I mean, there could be a genetic superiority or evolution, right? Person accidentally turned into, bitten by spider, given these abilities, and goes, wait a minute, everyone needs to be this way, right? And despite the fact that we're killing innocent individuals, might be a side effect of that. So that could also be the evil is evil spider. I mean, of course, we're not really taking Peter Parker and Spider-Man. The whole point is we're stealing from this character who is very capable, very smart, and this evil character could be recruiting others like themselves. Maybe instead of the wandering princess who's the lycanthrope, maybe there's a group of other organized lycanthropes that are recruiting these individuals. So yeah, they could absolutely be evil. It's the cabal of vampires that's gathering the other vampires that have been turned by accident or something. So yeah, this character could be very much on their own. They're capable, but they don't have an army. But this individual's like collecting an army of like-minded individuals. Like, they don't like you, they don't know what they're doing. I'm the only one that understands what you're going through. Join me so that we can defend ourselves and maybe have a new world order. So that's a possibility as well. Yeah, again, of course, like Zev's kind of responding to kind of what we're saying, because Rickard's really trying to think outside the box. But Zev says, yeah, the thing is, heroes aren't normally thought about. Usually it's just you hero, they bad guys, punch, swing away. Yeah, I agree with you on that, Zev. Like, because Rickard's really saying, listen, we need to think outside the box. And unfortunately, our minds are always like, well, they're really the hero. Yeah. Yeah, Zevra says, so going the misunderstood or selfish route is interesting because it doesn't assume your motivations. Rickard says, though, for misunderstanding, have a character being bitten by a cursed spider, and the hag who cursed the spider has a cure, but requires Spider-Man to do X to get it. and having the cure slowly killing Spider-Man, so the cure is really needed. And how often have we seen that trope, man? The I've got the cure, I've got the way to save you, but you need to do this thing for me. And the parent who has their children kidnapped, and the parent now has to blow a politician away in a public space and put a bullet in the back of their head. And like, why did you do that? Well, they've kidnapped my kids, right? The Spider-Man character's been bitten and they're like slowly transforming like the Fly. It's like, it's mutating me. And that old hag is like, do what I say, steal this thing, kill this person. And yeah. Yeah, that's a trope, and one, maybe we don't use it enough. But it could be maybe this character starts liking what they're doing or becoming comfortable in their actions. Maybe they're killing people indiscriminately and knowing that they're doing it. They're absolutely positive knowing they're doing it. But they also know this hag could make things far more worse for society. So it's almost like a martyrdom. Like, well, if she's going to bother doing it, maybe I should be the one that's her agent of darkness or whatnot. Or maybe the hag saved one or more important people in their life, and it was, it's the selling your soul to the devil thing. Like, I'll do anything if you save my loved one. Okay. You'll do anything? Sure. And so maybe that might be the recruiting thing, where this Spider-Man person is evil and doing evil things, but if you really uncover it, they did it out of goodness, kind of like a Ghost Rider even. Maybe Spider-Man is literally a Spider-Man a la Simic hybrid race from Ravnica. Okay. Experiment by a magic science guild to create an army of forced evolution for humanity. This gives you a big bad evil guy in terms of a group right away. I hear that too. Yeah, Mythos apologize. Sorry, DBJ, can't help but crack jokes. You're fine. Rickard says, that way you have a straight up antagonist that can't be reasoned with because they have no choice in it. So the heroes still won't feel bad in stopping them. They might go after the hag next, though. Yeah, and of course, like you said, Rickard, it's the next stepping stone, right? The PCs fight the mindless creature or the creature that can't control themselves, a la the traditional lycanthrope, werewolf type character or creature or whatever you've reskinned. And as the players are slowly eliminating them from being a danger to everyone, they go to the hag, and then maybe the hag reveals like, hey, they were innocent people. You're the one that did, maybe trying to get out of it or trying to make them feel guilty or something before the hag, of course, gets themselves killed. Zibutho says a Ghost Rider type character in Rips might be badass. Yeah. Oh yeah. But all right, guys. And Mythos says, sorry, DBJ, I'm stealing that one. It's perfectly fine, man. That's what we're here for, man. That's what we're here for. Yeah, Zephyr says, coming up with ideas is hard when you didn't see this stream from in the room is spinning. Yeah. I think my sister gave me the flu. I think someone has gotten I think someone has been irradiated by a nefarious infection, and they too might start climbing on the walls and squirting their own fluids out of their mouth and or rear end. Maybe a bad visual. Okay, guys, time for the salutation. Got to get out of here. I will open up the stream for tomorrow. I believe tomorrow is Thor. So, guys, I'm testing out my salutation. Oh man. Yeah, Bruce says, yeah. Oh, thanks, man. Thanks, thank you, man. Thanks again for the books. Not a big deal, dude. They are far more valuable in the hands of someone who's best to use them. So not a big deal at all. Yeah. So guys, I'm going to sign out by saying, please, everyone out there in the RPG landscape, let's not measure our loves by our hates. Let's turn away the hate. Let's not go around talking about all the things that we dislike about something. Let's just embrace the things that we love, understand that everyone can't like all the things that we have, and just be glad that we do have an RPG community of great and intelligent and creative folks out there who should be encouraged to dive into the landscape in the way in which they wish. So guys, everyone, Everyone have a great one. I see you guys there in the chat. Yeah, can you be a cleric of yourself? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. We talked about that before. We did talk about that being a cleric unto yourself, or maybe it was more like warlock, but I could see that. That's in the hopper. We're gonna put that in the hopper for later. Guys, everyone have a great one. I will see thee tomorrow. See ya. Bye.